Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the demise of Western business. We're watching it in slow motion, and not simply business. We could be government services, anything at all, any endeavour of any description is going downhill fast. Now, I'm going to draw a parallel here between the end of the colonial empires, and particularly in the early 1900s and through until sort of the mid 1900s, looking at those end of the colonial empires and just how badly the black countries did after the white folks left. Now there was no excuse for it. Rich countries, while the whites were running it, have become desperately dirt poor basket cases since the white people left. So let's look at that. But let's draw a parallel between this maniacal desire to kick the white people out of those colonies, those very high standard of living, very rich colonies where a lot of black people were doing very well out of it. And then comparing that, or drawing a parallel to this maniacal desire to kick straight white men out of businesses today, to remove them from middle management, upper middle management, any sort of decision-making role. Straight white men are being moved out simply because they're straight white men. This is supposed to be redressing some alleged imbalance of power between the races and the genders and so on, but they're replacing straight white males with much less qualified, much less credentialed, less capable minorities, as they call it, whether it be women or black brown people or the proverbial black lesbian. It doesn't matter. They're replacing competent white people. Even if the white people are only moderately competent, they're still replacing those moderately competent white people, white males, with much less competent minorities. So however you want to cut it, they're replacing better quality people with lesser quality people. So that's what's happening. And I draw a parallel between the end of the colonial empires. Now, it does matter. You look at any, and I mean any country that was run by the white people, and then have a look at those countries after the whites departed. And in some cases, there's 70, 80 years since the white people have gone, and yet still the place is a basket case. So. And let's take some of the African nations, Rhodesia, which is later called Zimbabwe, and Kenya, and others. In fact, anywhere in Africa, you see that these countries, many of them being very rich in natural resources, whether it be cobalt or vast coffee plantations or gold, diamonds. And other valuable ores and minerals and so on. The countries are still diabolical basket cases of violence, of poverty, of corruption, and so on. Constant civil war and uprisings. So you say, well, why did they go from being so rich when the whites are running it to so poor now the blacks are running it, or the brown people are running it? There's no reason for it. There's if you look at pretty much any colonial power when they vacated Africa or anywhere else, they would offer to leave behind the administrators, the competent, well-trained administrators, white administrators, leave them in those countries or those places to say that we'll help you transition to a modern economy. But most of the time, with only the odd exception, the incoming black government would turn down the offer, say, no, we want all you whites out of here. So even the competent administrators that were offered by the rich white Western powers, they were turned them down. Now, and on the other side, some of the black administrators that had been trained by the white colonialists, given an education in the West and having spent years, if you like, as as an apprenticeship, learning how to administer, whether it be administer finances or civil infrastructure or whatever it was, local government services, and the competent black people were turfed out by the incoming black government. So not only did they kick out the whites, they kicked out the competent black folks. So their determination just to get their hands on the loot and to just be corrupt and divvy up the goodies to their tribal buddies and the hangers-on and the corrupt goon squads and so on was really all, they salivated at that prospect. It was never about independence. It was never about, we can do a better job than you guys. It was never about self-determination. It was about corrupt goons getting their hands on the loot. That was always about that, which indeed it is, by kicking white people out of businesses in the West. The minorities, the brown, the black people, the women, they want the money and the prestige. It's not about we can do a better job than the white guys. It's not about we can make the company more profitable or more professional or raise, standards of quality control. It's nothing about none of that. It's all about we want the money and the prestige, and we don't want to have to earn it. We don't want to have to work hard at school and college to get a top quality degree. We don't want to have to work through the system, starting off sweeping the floor and working our way up to being the president of the company. We don't want to have to do any of that apprenticeship bullshit. We want to go straight to it because we're minorities. We want to be gifted these things, and we damn well fucking deserve it. We want those damn fucking fascist Nazis to get out the way so we can get our hands on this loot. So the incoming management that are replacing the straight white males are of a much lower quality. Now, whether they're absolutely incompetent and useless, that can be debated, but they're less competent and less qualified, less capable than the people that they're replacing, and that in itself is a disaster. The idea is, in the proper business commercial world that used to exist, of one of commercial competition, is that the incoming managers would be at the very least as good as, hopefully, a little bit better than the people going out. Whether it be people retiring or moving to another job, you'd hope their replacement would be again as least as good. But that's not the case here. Now, towards the end of the year here, the long summer holidays in Australia, in the southern hemisphere, of course, Christmas time is the warmest time of the year. The height of summer and that sort of thing. So as the long summer shutdown looms, there's a sort of frantic attempt to finish off business and get things signed off or put to bed or in many cases delayed. So there's been a sort of flurry of meetings and get-togethers and so on. And I'm permanently aghast at the fucking quality of people that we're seeing. We had a meeting recently with the executive vice president of operations of what effectively is a sort of a government sub-department, I guess you'd call it, Quango, and we come across quite a few Quangos in what we're doing, but they've forcibly turfed out the white males at the top. And they've made a huge flurry of it that, wow, we're woke, we're progressive, we've got rid of all the straight white males, we've replaced them with women, and a good smattering of lesbians to boot. This is our demonstration of wokeness. And they've been press releasing it. It's been on the fucking front page of newspapers, and there have been magazine articles about it. These women have been featured as prominent and powerful women, and you go girl, and this sort of thing. But these are these are women who haven't earned anything resembling this. You're looking at people that are maybe a senior level receptionist or something like that, and they've been elevated to a role of an executive vice president with a salary or an income to match. So for this size of organisation, executive vice presidents are sort of in the 350 to 400,000 type bracket per annum, and so they're being, and in Sydney that's not a lot of money anymore, but it's all right. I mean, it's hardly a crap income. You're in the top one in every 160, 170 people at that sort of income. But so it's still a good income on a relative basis anyway. Now, we had a meeting. We've had a series of meetings, and I'll recount sort of some of the meetings. We're sitting down. We've had one meeting with a lady. She'd be, I don't know, late 30s, I guess. Excuse me, incredibly over promoted. I mean, over promoted to over promoted as fuck. Now, we sit down straight away. You see, she knows she's over promoted. She knows she's outclassed and outgunned as soon as we all sit down. She's nervous about it. She's got a chip on her shoulder. She knows that that she's not up to the job. So, excuse me, I'm just going to take a mouthful of water here. So we're sitting down, and she's the big chip on shoulder sticks out like a sore thumb, and so she starts by trying to assert her authority. Okay, this is going to be the itinerary of the meeting. This is what it's going to be, and this involves some things that hadn't been previously discussed. There wasn't actually a whole lot to discuss or agree upon. So why a meeting format was needed, and if it was needed, then that should have been distributed to everybody before the meeting, not announced unilaterally and arbitrarily once the meeting began. But anyway, that's fine. So we're sitting there, and she again. I mean, you have to sort of look at the body language and the facial expressions. She knows she's totally outgunned here, and we're being as sort of meek and as humble as possible, because we don't want to sort of push her into any further acts of silliness based on her insecurities and that sort of thing. So she admits indirectly that she doesn't know what questions to ask us and how to work through the issues of the meeting. So she's gone online and furiously searched for some approximation of a close match, which wasn't really that much of a match. And she's just downloaded the list of questions off the internet. So she's asking these questions that she doesn't even, understand or remotely understand, because she's been so over promoted anyway. She doesn't understand the issues that she's responsible for. Then she downloads a fucking list of questions of the internet, which she also doesn't understand. And then she's trying to write down answers that again she doesn't understand. I mean, you have to sort of picture this totally unqualified fucking person who's been purely there because I suspect this one's a lesbian, purely there because she's a lesbian. That is the only reason she's there. Plus this sort of frothing at the mouth desire. We've got to get rid of all the straight white males, those damn fucking fascists, and replace them with anyone, any minority. It doesn't matter. And the more boxes you can tick, black, brown, lesbian, whatever, the more likely it is that you're going to get the nod to be put up. But this person again wouldn't have, in the real world, this person wouldn't have a job anywhere near this senior. So she's got a downloaded list. We're trying to answer the questions as simply as possible. Some of the questions are technical or have a technical element or component to them, wasting her time. She doesn't even come within a million miles of understanding that. So we have to then simplify the simplification, simplify it again, just so she can even get the general gist of what's being discussed. Now, she could have brought in some technical expertise, you'd think, to help her out here, or some expertise, because she's the executive vice president, for fuck's sake. Surely there are people, minions that she can bring in who would have some sort of technical understanding. But she hasn't done that, and she's brought in sort of another couple of angry lesbians who are really just the lesbian girly cheer squad to sort of stop those damn straight white fucking fascist Nazis. So, and they're brimming with anger about these evil straight white males, the enemy. You've caused global warming. You were responsible for slavery. You're responsible for the oppression of women. You fucking damn Nazis. We're in charge now. We're going to rub your damn fascist Nazi faces in. And that's the vibe sort of just coming out of them, at high octane, high altitude. It's a fucking joke, seriously. So nonetheless, we're going through this, and she at the end of it, there's a couple of times we had to stop. So, well, look, stop. That's not the question here. The question is such and such, and in order to understand it, this is a requirement. Before you can do this, you must do that first. Now we have the expertise where we know that, having done it many times, and having got the credentials and the qualifications to be talking about this with the requisite amount of authority, given we've done it and successfully done it. But we're talking to someone who's achieved nothing, done nothing, created nothing, built nothing. All she's done is simmer and smoulder about evil white fascists. That's all she's ever done. That's her total accomplishment. Waving a few placards about climate change. But these are the people more and more that are being put into these sort of roles and being promoted, not one or two rungs above their level of competence, but maybe 5, 6, 10 rungs above the level of competence. So it's reached a point of it transcends parity here, but also there's we're looking at other similar situations to that or encountering them, and we've also, this has come up a few times recently, and I've mentioned it before, but it's occurring more often now, and I think and I see it as a trend. We sort of contract and subcontract out our expertise to various places, and we're often part subcontracting to another main contractor and that sort of thing. So we, when we're not the main contractor, we really sort of have to go with the flow rather than sort of stake out a territory of our own, and just for the good politics of it all, if anything. But so what I've noticed though is, and I don't see it all the time because I'm not there, or I'm usually going in to fill in for somebody, or someone couldn't turn up, or very specific expertise that only I have is needed, something like that. So I go in and we're being the diversity and inclusion managers and officers and directors. They are increasingly having huge sway and influence and decision-making authority over not only who gets hired, which is in itself a disaster. They have effectively veto powers. I mean, here's one meeting we're at where this was quite senior managers, and they were all straight white males. But then this 30-something, or late 20s, early 30s something diversity director came in. Brown and lesbian from what I can see, and she comes in again that angry, I hate all white people, I hate straight white males, I'm here to socially re-engineer the world to be one of great social justice because all these straight white men are so evil, and she comes in, and as soon as she enters the room, these senior white guys who have accomplishments, have achieved things, they've accomplished things, and yet they all, as soon as she entered the room, they were all nervous and dithering. It's like they were suddenly children, and she was the powerful adult who was going to dictate to them how they must behave and talk, and that's the fear that this angry, unqualified fucking nothing, lesbian studies diversity director, Shannon, they were terrified of her. I mean, it was gross to watch. Now, when she saw that there was only me and one other guy in there, with them, and she looked, and when she realised that we weren't sort of going to be terrified and scared witless by her presence. She tried to verbal us, I suppose Hitler's your best friend, that sort of attitude, and we weren't prepared to put up with that. No, not putting up with it. But I've seen it in other places as well, where the diversity director drags you in, and it's not part of the contract or any agreement or any pre-agreed, or drags you in to give you a verbaling of you better damn well make sure you respect, black lesbians, otherwise you're out, and they even start questioning you, but it's sort of questioning they learn in the angry gender studies lesbian class. It's not questions related to any of the work or the job. It's the line in question is we have a very inclusive workforce here, and there's a lot of minorities and people from the LGBTQ community. Do you have a problem with that? Are you sure? Do we need to look into your past to make sure, that type of thing? And looking down over the top of their their head bending forward and looking up in the eyes of, you fucking liar, you're a fucking Nazi, we know it, and we'll catch you out, we'll be watching you, you damn fascist, that type of attitude. He's this person, again, who's accomplished, achieved, built, created nothing. The only thing they've been trained to do is be filled with anger and hatred towards straight white males. That's all. That's their only, that's their only credential. And so we're getting dragged into this. And I spoke to my colleagues about it, saying, unless it's part of the contract, a part of the agreement, we're not going to do that. They have to send in writing an invitation to a meeting and why they want that meeting and how it fits in with the contract. If it doesn't, then we're simply not attending. We don't want to get our main contractors into trouble, and so pressure can be brought to bear on us by leaning on others. So we need to be mindful of that. But I've noticed this trend of bringing the straight white males in to be verbaled and slapped around by some snot-nosed punk, fuck-ass diversity director who's going to socially re-engineer the universe. Coming back to the getting rid of all the straight white males from business, it's a huge cost to business. Business has to carry a bigger payroll. It's less efficient. It's more cumbersome, and the only way they can survive is by getting tax breaks, special tax breaks from the government, or they're getting cozy government contracts. But no matter how you look at it, the taxpayer is paying for it. So that the money's being taken out of the pockets of citizens who've never agreed to this sort of chicanery, in order to prop up a system that is supposed to be equal, supposed to be some equality paradise, but it's nothing of the sort. And I'm aghast at the low quality of the people that I meet. So whenever I see a minority person, if there's a meeting coming in and Billie Jean is going to be the chair, the chairwoman or chairperson, whatever they call it these days, of the meeting, then I go, that's it. I'm dealing with a low quality person, and without exception, and I'm sure there must be exceptions somewhere, but without exceptions, I'm dealing with a very low quality person of minimal capability. Now, sometimes there can be a wealthy socialite who comes from old money that's in there, and they're very charming, they're very pleasant, they're very socially confident, but that doesn't mean they're competent from a commercial perspective. I mean, they're very pleasant, very nice, and very charming, and those socialite people, they are generally. It's rare that you'll find someone who's unpleasant from that part of town, and they have that classic confidence of someone who's never had to worry about money, and has never had to prove or achieve anything in order to go to the next level. That's always been guaranteed them, and so you can sit down and have very pleasant meetings with those people. Very pleasant indeed, but that doesn't make them competent. They're still fucking useless, and that's the material point on that side. So again, in closing, I'd closely equate the kicking out of white people from what were once very rich colonies that subsequently became dirt poor, and that's every one of them as far as I can tell. And the kicking of straight white males out of business and replacing with much lower quality people, which is, of course, a huge cost to the Western wealth, the Western taxpayer, and Western standards of living. You've been Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.